Welcome to Keep Taking Ground, the Saxophone podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Ryan, and we're back with another episode. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. You can expect conversations with award-winning and in-demand saxophonists from around the world and across jazz and contemporary styles. I believe that my guests know something that the rest of us don't yet know, and that's what I'm curious about. So I want to create a resource that will help you keep taking ground, in your personal, professional, musical, and creative journeys and connect with the saxophone community worldwide. Today's guest was born in Guadeloupe, which makes him my Caribbean brother. He has been at the center of several musical revolutions: neo soul next to D'Angelo and Erykah Badu, new jazz as a founding member of the late Roy Hargrove's RH Factor. He outright created two surging styles, Gwoka Jazz and Voodoo Jazz, reuniting jazz music with its Afro-Caribbean and spiritual origins. His impressionistic writing, powerful tone, and wide-ranging language, both lyrical and angular, have fueled a growing presence on the world stage. After playing alongside such luminaries as Roy Hargrove, Danilo Perez, Ari Honig, and Chucho Valdez, he finally decided to follow his own vision as a band leader and formed his Gwoka Jazz project and recorded two albums for Universal Records. He has become an ambassador for a school of modern jazz rooted in voodoo music. And he is an associate professor at Berklee College of Music, where he's teaching mainly ensembles over different styles and is also planning to let in Caribbean jazz into this prestigious institution. It's my pleasure to welcome no other than Jacques Schwarz-Bart to the podcast. Jacques, welcome.
Thank you, Jesse, for this beautiful introduction.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure to have you on the podcast. I've been following you for a very long time. As a matter of fact, when I was back in living in Trinidad, the first time I saw you perform was with Etienne Charles. That has to be like 2009. So over 10 years ago, and I've been following you ever since. You've have and continue to have an amazing career as both a leader and a sideman, and now teaching at Berklee College of Music.
Yes, those days with Etienne were wonderful.
Yeah.
Etienne and I have remained good friends, and we are actually currently even talking about him taking a listen and giving me some pointers on my very latest recording.
Awesome.
To see if I need to add some harmony here and there.
Yeah. That's amazing, man. Those kind of collaborations are really lifelong ones. I really noticed that you guys were doing something special when I saw that show back in 2008, because I was aware of Etienne, and then I became aware of you. And then when I checked out your music, I realizing that you were sort of also creating music in the same vein in terms of creating Creole jazz and mixing modern jazz and modern sounds with Afro-Caribbean traditions. And I think that's probably become part of your musical DNA, right?
Yes, absolutely. When I first started, getting into saxophone and jazz, I always dreamed of finding a common ground between Afro-Caribbean rhythms and melodies, and jazz harmony and improvisation. It's something that wasn't really done, especially not with the roots music, traditional spiritual music from the Caribbeans.
Yeah.
That there was always like a style of Caribbean music that was a little more digest, based on 1/6 to 5 progressions. Don't Stop the Carnival, or St. Thomas, or what we have in Guadeloupe, Begin. That is a kind of joyful, but as far as the spiritual, the more African rooted style of Afro-Caribbean expression, Chango music, folklore music, Gwoka, Bele, Haitian voodoo. Those are areas that escape the realm of jazz, collaborating with and intersecting with Afro-Caribbean music. And this is the area that was always interesting to me, because I always felt the power, the spiritual power of music. I've ventured into different religions throughout my life, but the constant was that my true religion came through music.
Right.
Because this is where I receive my spiritual food. And it turns out that in all the Afro-Caribbean traditions, and the Afro-American and the African traditions as well, music is always a center piece. In Gnawa music, which the Africans from Morocco, the entire religion is about chanting. The entire religion is the music.
Wow.
There is no prayer that is not accompanied with a melody and a rhythm.
Right.
And this for me is emblematic that of how we live our spirituality. And ever since my awareness of the importance of music in our identity as Afro-Caribbeans, I've never let up in my search to understand that common ground between improvisation, composition, harmony, jazz, and spiritual roots music.
Amazing. I wanted to delve a little bit deeper with that in a second, but let's go back in time a little bit and how did brother Jacques, some people say, end up with a saxophone in his hand? So let's start at the beginning.
I really started very late. I played Guadeloupean hand drum when I was 4. Then I played some guitar when I was 7.
Okay.
And then I embarked on a journey to graduate, at 16 from high school, and then start and graduate from law school at 20, very early, and then I entered the School of Government in Paris, and upon graduating, I was offered a great position in the French administration. But I went on vacation in Guadeloupe, and a friend of mine had a tenor saxophone that she was not using.
Okay.
But she knew how to put the reed on and everything. And I had always been a fan of Coltrane and Charlie Parker and Coleman Hawkins and Ben Webster and Dexter Gordon and Sonny Rollins. So when I saw that tenor saxophone, I was like, oh my God, I always dreamt of playing one of those. Could you put it together for me?
Yes.
And she assembled it for me and made sure that it was leveled properly.
Yes.
And everything. And then I started playing, and I quickly, within 5-10 minutes, figured how the scale was working.
And
I started playing some melodies, and I started trying to reproduce some of the language that I had in my mind from listening all these years, to all the greatest horn players, and everybody was like, stop BSing everybody here. How many years have you been playing the saxophone? And I thought they were just complimenting me for the heck. But then one of them told me, we have a little band and we need a saxophone player for tomorrow. Can you play the gig? and so the next day of my first love affair with the saxophone, I started gigging.
Okay, hold on a second. So you picked up the saxophone one day, and was it the same day they invited you to play?
Yeah.
So the following day,
we had some friends around while I was trying the horn,
right?
And one of them was a piano player,
okay,
and he had a little band, and the singer was there too, and they were like, we need a saxophone player for tomorrow's gig. Are you available? I was like, of course I'm available.
they're on vacation, right?
So they were like, well, you hired, and that summer I played 4 to 5 gigs every week with that band, and then with other bands.
Mm-hmm.
And of course everybody dismissed right off the bat when the fact that I had just started. Right. They wouldn't even listen when I said that kind of stuff. They were like, "Oh yeah, you like to look cool."
Right.
Let me not just bring it up anymore.
Yeah.
So that's how I started playing the saxophone, and then after a year and a half of that position,
yeah,
I had really. I had to face an existential question about what I was going to do with my life, because I was getting more and more thrilled with playing the saxophone, although it was not realistic for me to become a professional player starting that late, and I knew that there was no history of anyone having achieved anything, having started that late. So I was like, I have really no chance of achieving anything, but yet this is what I really want to do. So I quit that one job and took another job as an assistant senator in Paris. That was a lighter job with less work, and being in Paris, I could actually attend all the jazz concerts, because there is a serious jazz life in Paris. And one night I went to Le Petit Opportun. It's a very small jazz club in Paris, and there was playing a band of 3 Berklee professors, one of them being what was, oh my god, Garrison Fuel, the guitar player who passed away about 10 years ago. And at the end of the set, they were about to play the last song, and Garrison said, since I was the only one left in the club, hey dude, you wanna play the last song with us? You have your saxophone case in front of you, and you clapping at the right spot, so obviously you know what we're doing. And I was, it would be my honor. And then afterwards they were like, so what's your next tour? Who did you record with? Which CDs did you release? And I was like, well, I just started a year and a half ago. So I have no idea what you're talking about. And anyway, it's way too late for me to even dream of doing anything as a saxophone player. Like, well, if you did this in a year and a half, you should be at Berklee, and follow your dreams.
Right.
So they sent me manuals to study arrangement, air training, all the core disciplines that are required to actually enter Berklee. And 4 months later, I went to audition, and they gave me a scholarship, and I stayed and never looked back.
Amazing. No, I think it's so important that you share that story, because I remember reading part of that story somewhere online, and it was during a time when I was back home in Trinidad. So I did my first year at Berklee. I had a partial scholarship there, and it was really expensive coming from Trinidad. So I was trying to figure out how I was going to finance it. I was back home for 3 years, and I went through a period of time where I was researching the stories of some of my favorite musicians, and you were one of those people. And I read a little bit of that story that you started later. Now, how old were you when you went to Berklee?
So when I went to Berklee, I was 27.
Right. So as you said, that's not the norm. And me growing up in the Caribbean, I think, well, I got a saxophone in my hand when I was around the age of 14, which it's not common, right? And so I was lucky or blessed, or whatever you want to call it, to have that opportunity. But I still didn't have access to a lot of the education that some of my North American counterparts had at that age. So in some ways, I still felt as though I was playing catch up, and I still feel like that. But for you, you started even later than I did.
Twice, almost twice as late.
Right. And went to Berklee at 27. You already almost 30. Yeah. So, can we talk about a little bit more about some of the factors that influenced that? I know you shared this story with coming into contact with the Berklee professors and all of that, but you seem to have a sort of intrinsic drive and love for the music that was almost calling you to go deeper in the music even before you had any opportunities to do it in a serious way. So what were some of the personal things you were thinking about and I guess daily dealing with between your job and music?
I was questioning any possibility of becoming a musician. I was wondering which avenue it could take, and it was unthinkable for me to become a real jazz player, playing with the greatest musicians of our times. Or it was not even imaginable, but I thought that it was under my reach to be able to possibly teach children and play on Saturday night, in the local joint, for $50 and then go back to my little. Basically, I just wanted to switch my life and dedicate my energy to music, however form it would take. And it's just that I was so passionate about the music. I was practicing, between 6 and 8 hours a day, sometimes 10, and I grew very fast once I got to Berklee. Because prior to that, I had no way. I just didn't have time to practice every day, first of all. And when I practiced, it was half an hour or an hour. But all of a sudden, I had unlimited practice time
at Berklee.
Right. And that's what made such a gigantic difference, because I was able to tap into my potential as a saxophonist for the very first time. And every time I learned something new, it was a personal victory. I was celebrating inside, and just it put me on a path of constant thrill, in a fast chasing quest. Of course, the better you get, and also the older you get, the slower you progress, and so now any very small progress is a huge victory at this stage of my life, my career. If I can do better something that I've been working on for years, it's huge at this point of my life. But at the time, it was almost daily that I was able to make some type of progress. So, of course,
must have been really encouraging for you.
It was encouraging for me, and also it was almost a state of permanent hallucination.
Wow.
Where I was in a different world, speaking a language that I had not spoken on a regular basis before, English, of course, with people who had totally different cultural references, had no idea of the world that I came from, and didn't care either. And at the same time, I spent all these hours really by myself in the shed, in the practice room, remote from any other living creature. So it felt almost like an interesting and thrilling dream, where everything is fast moving, but at the same time I'm trying to push back an invisible wall that is constantly in front of me. But still I'm moving it.
And do you feel like
let me just say something. There is a little say that I don't remember from which book that says it was impossible, therefore they did it. And that was my story back then.
Amazing. I was just gonna ask you, as someone leaving, because you're living in France at the time, so you were very much had you visited the US before then, before you went to Berklee?
Once. I had visited the US when I was 12 years old.
Okay.
I went to New York, and for a month, around Harlem, and I just loved it.
Awesome. So I was gonna ask, you were experiencing all of these new things all at once, new experiences on the saxophone, culturally, coming from France to the US. I know that a lot of international students struggle personally with all of those changes. How do you feel like if you balance sort of the personal with the musical, or was it that you were such on a high with the new things that were happening that it kind of helped to balance some of the challenges of that? How was that for you?
It was challenging because first of all, there was the racism, the discrimination, the separation of races. I was part of one of the first Black students union at the time, but at the same time, since I was not speaking with a fluid American accent, I was an outsider, and being light skinned on top of it. My voice didn't really mean much, but then again, among whites, it meant even less. It was not until I started playing with some luminaries in Boston, like Danilo Perez or Bob Moses, that my peers started paying attention to me, and my voice started mattering. But yet it was I never felt accepted as a foreigner in any of the bands that I was touring with, white or black. People always made fun of my accent, Pepe Le Pew, whatever, and on top of that, I was successful with the ladies, and that created some little tension with the other fellows, and so more mockery of my ways of doing things, and I was like, I started not to care. At first, the first 10 years, I would say, it was very hurtful to feel constantly excluded. But then after a while, since my focus was on the music, and I got fulfillment from that, and my dialogue about the music was always productive. With my partners. I started not to care about the other stuff. It was part of the package that somebody was going to make fun of my accent, my ways of thinking. And it's interesting for me to see today how this is frowned upon finally, by everyone, including my black brothers, who are about inclusion and are watchful about othering people who look or talk a little differently, and I'm very glad about this. It's just that it happened 30 years too late, but
for you. I think it's important that I ask these kind of questions, because I think oftentimes in spaces like this, when conversations like this happen between musicians, it's usually about the craft and about music and about the different elements of how you do this and how you play this. But I feel like if it's impossible to disconnect the musical or the creative with the personal. They always intersect. And in that way, I want to shift the conversation a little bit. And as you know, the name of the podcast is Keep Taking Ground. And so I want to ask you, what have you been in pursuit of, since that time? You've released numerous records as a leader, you've toured and so on. So what have some of the things that, what have you valued and been in pursuit of over the years, as a saxophone player, as a musician?
Well, I would say I've been in pursuit of some type of balance between writing and playing.
Okay.
When I first became a band leader, writing became my first priority, and then my playing lagged behind.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Prior to that, I was a sideman, and my job was to sound good on my saxophone.
Yeah.
So that was my number one priority.
Yeah.
And I was a deluxe, I would say, sideman, because I was playing with all those major stars, both from the jazz and the neo soul / hip hop scene. So I was putting all my effort into making sure that if somebody came to try to get me booted out of my gig, he would feel the heat.
Yeah.
Especially in New York or those places where you know there's always somebody trying to get your gig. Trying to audition or sit in with the band and everything. I would always see a guy with a saxophone, precisely because I was a foreigner. They thought I would be a soft target.
Yeah. Who's this guy?
Exactly. He's not an American playing with this gigantic star of the American scene. I can definitely get that gig, and I would be like super prepared.
Now, was that something? Do you feel like if that was like intentional, like you became aware of that fact and you intentionally would step up your game, or do you feel like if that's something more intrinsic to who you are as a person, like being really competitive and being on your game?
Oh, well, I'm always on my game, as much as I can be. But at that point, I had understood my situation as an outsider.
Right.
And having to always prove a little more than the people who are in the fold. So I knew that every time we would go into a major city, I would have to prove myself a little extra, push a little harder, play a few extra licks that would bring a lot of attention to me and away from whoever was trying to get my gig. Now when I became a band leader, I was focused on just leading the band and creating, the right atmosphere on stage. And for the first 3-4 years, that my playing was secondary in my preoccupations and priorities. But then I realized that I had stopped growing.
Like on the saxophone?
On the saxophone. My understanding of leading a band had improved.
Yes.
My compositional concept had gone further.
Yes.
But I was stagnating as a saxophone player. And nobody was telling me that, of course. But this is, I've always been kind of hard on myself, and I always take a pretty harsh look at my reality. No complacence at all myself to a fault sometimes. And that's when I started shifting my focus to try to regain a balance between writing and playing. And this is now I went over the recent years through a period of time where I wrote so much music that now I have 3 recorded albums that I will release over the next 6 to 8 years.
Right. Wow.
And also an extra project that is completely written already. So I have like a surplus of composition, and I'm finally able to focus just on leading the band, but also mainly on sounding good myself.
So let's talk a little bit about how your process in trying to create that balance, because I've spoken to a number of people that talk about using composition as a means of development on the saxophone, but it seems like if you might have been approaching it slightly differently, and sort of pushing the bounds as separate things, and then seeing how those things intersect. Can you talk about that a little bit? How you created that balance, both conceptually and like day to day in the practice room?
So the thing is, it's true that through your writing, you challenge yourself.
Yeah.
Conceptually.
Yeah.
And you set goals.
Yes.
To be able to match your composition with a great stylistic approach as a performer.
Yeah.
But now, in order to go from setting that goal to actually achieving it, you need to put in the hours.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So and that's what I was not able to do at first, because nobody taught me about being a band leader. It's something that I had to learn on the gig, literally.
Right. Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, at first, that load of being the band leader and being the front man,
yes,
was almost unbearable to me. Having been, basically responsibility free for all my career as a jazz man, or as a performer. My only responsibility was to show up on time, sound check, and then the music. I tried to play my ass off if I had it in me, which hopefully I had it enough time to keep my gig, even against all intruders. But now, when I became a band leader, the responsibility of conducting all the cues, counting the right tempos, designing some of the arrangement as I was going along, keeping an eye on the watch to respect the time format of the theater, the festival, all those things, and worrying about also about the audience attendance. How many people are in the room? Are they digging the music? All those things. I had to become aware of as a band leader, which I never had to think about 1 second in my life prior. And then resolving conflicts between musicians, and making sure I pay something right to the band leader, but still keep it enough to actually pay my rent. And it's the whole administration and management part of being a band leader just ate me alive. Now I'm able to deal with it because it has become second nature. I don't have to think about it anymore. Just do it. And I can easily put that aside when I sit down in the practice room or in the green room prior to to a gig and warming up. I'm just focused 100% on the music effortlessly, because I fit in my suit, and I put on my band leader hat, and that's it.
You've assimilated all of the skills and the sensibilities to do that, to function in that role effectively.
Every time I see a conflict, I'm like, oh yeah, this guy wants this guy wants that. Now I'm gonna give this guy a little bit of what he wants. That guy a little bit of what he wants. Make sure that they break together, and then it's going to be over. I mean, it's
like a family, right?
Already pre-written. I have all the presets to conflict resolution and keeping harmony in my bands and all that stuff. What happens if somebody is not waiting for us at the airport to pick us up? No problem. I'm on it. I already know the address of the hotel. I'm like, guys, we're not gonna wait. We're gonna hop into a taxi, and don't worry, I got it. if you need to eat something, it's on me. But I have all the scenarios and the little practical answers ready, so that we can have a smooth ride, as opposed to at the time so many things just popped up along the way. I'm like, what do I
do? That's so interesting, because when I see, I guess I know this has to do with personality as well, but when I see arrogant musicians walking around, it really interests me, because especially when they're band leaders, because a band leader is in a constant posture of serving, serving the music, serving the band members, serving the promoters, serving the audience, and you almost come last all the time.
You always, not almost, you always come last.
Right.
If you think of yourself first, you are going straight into a wall.
Yeah.
Because people will start. You're facing mutiny, basically. People are going to start talking behind your back.
Yeah.
That you want people talking to you.
Yep.
And letting you know what's going on. The second people feel like you're not competent to solve any of your own problems in the band, and talk behind your back about you basically not giving a shit and not being able to do your job as a band leader. That's when you're exposing yourself to all kinds of headaches that are on this planet.
So we talked. Thanks so much for sharing all of that insight with your development as a band leader. How were you able, like in the practice room, to create some more balance between that big season of growth as a band leader and then trying to push and develop just as a saxophone player again? So was it did you recognize it as a big season of good as a band leader, and then you shifted, or was it sort of more of an organic sort of push and pull, trying to figure out, how am I trying to create this balance in the practice room? That is,
I had to be intentional.
Yeah.
The great thing about starting my career or the saxophone very late is that I had I was developed as just a student. I had 3 degrees in very competitive fields. I had attended the School of Government, worked at the Senate, surrounded with a very intellectually challenging environment, and I had developed a lot of problem-solving ability. So I applied this continually, and I still do. Every time I face a new problem, I think all my years of studying and then applying all the principles that I knew to practical cases along the way prepare me to quickly solve just about any problem in front of me these days. And that's but it took me a while to recognize actually that my playing was lagging, and once I recognized it, I'm not sure that I cared enough to actually address it right away, because for me the writing came first.
Okay.
I remember my motto at the time was that the music has to be so strong that any good musician can play it and it will still sound great.
Okay. Yeah.
But now I changed my motto.
What is it now?
Not only it has to be so strong that any good musician can make it sound good, but I need to make it sound unique every time I play it. I need to take ownership of my own music in a way that's compelling to the audience when I play my own music.
Right.
People have to walk out of there feeling like, well, no one can play this music quite as well as the person who wrote it.
Great.
And yes, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so in that way, you're sort of shifting the focus from the process of writing to the process of performing and presenting the music and making that the experience for your audience.
Absolutely, oftentimes, nowadays, when I'm trying to put emotion in everything I do on stage, such as just playing the head. When people start clapping after I just played the head without soloing, this is when I am the happiest, because they're not supposed to clap there. But yet, if they felt something from me just pouring my heart into playing the head, I know I did something right.
Yeah, I've been becoming more and more aware of musicians like yourself. I've also heard Branford Marsalis talk about the importance of becoming aware of the audience, and the importance of how you present and connect. And it's very much the anti-jazz musician's way of thinking sometimes. I feel like if a lot of jazz musicians aren't actively aware of audiences enough. Do you feel that?
Probably that's a very pertinent point. But what I would say is, on one hand, I hate the term entertainer.
Okay. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I'm not a dancing bear.
Yes.
I'm not a naked woman trying to get attention, or a naked man for that matter. You know. But on the other hand, I'm a communicator.
Yes.
I'm supposed to channel energy back and forth between the band, the music, and the audience. And somehow, if there is something that is not going through, it's my fault.
Yes. And so that's been sort of the concept or the thing that you value that has also helped you develop just as a saxophone player, to be able to present the music in a compelling and unique way every single time.
Absolutely. I try basically, I talked about spirituality, but I try to find the magic. And it comes from, the tone itself first. If you're not able to put some heart into just 2 or 3 notes, if you have to play a 1,000 notes to start reaching people, then you need to change something in your practice and start working on ballads. Try to emulate great singers. This is actually something that Bob Moses taught me, because at the time I was like a young buck, trying to play a whole bunch of notes every time I had the limelight. But creating an atmosphere just with 1 or 2 notes, it's something that creates a spiritual connection with the audience. They can actually hear your breath, the nuances of your sensitivity, of your aesthetic, through the way you actually shape your tone and your vibrato.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and Etienne is actually great at establishing that you know, that baseline, that wave of serenity that allows a connection with the audience, you know.
Yeah. That's really cool, and I feel like if the way that you presented that just now kind of separates it into two spheres. There's the intangible sort of awareness and sensitivity and intention to create that sort of thing, but then there's the technical elements of vibrato and sound and tone that you have to cultivate to be able to execute in the moment, in the room, you know, as well.
Absolutely, and it's the same whether you're playing a ballad or Cherokee.
Yeah.
You know, you need to be able to play a song very fast without having to play very fast lines.
Yeah. Huh.
I know that's the go-to to just play 8 notes, whatever tempo you play it.
Yeah.
But if you try to think of singing,
yeah,
you know, whatever tempo it is, then you shift your focus, you know, and you can go back and forth between your fast runs and more economical and slower lines.
Yeah. That's amazing. And you know, you said early on that you've been trying to find the magic, and I think that's such a perfect word, because when I listen to you play, I would probably describe you as a magician. The way that you approach sound and the rhythmic feel and the way that you sort of carve out a moment in the music, it's like so consistent every single time on your records. When you're playing with Etienne and I came across that record that you did with Ari Honing a couple years ago. I came across it. Such a good record. I think you have one of the most unique sounds on the scene, like right now. And so I would like to talk about your passion for you know, blending Afro-Caribbean music with jazz language, jazz harmony, and how you've sort of carved out a unique sound for yourself. And maybe if you have the opportunity to kind of share some of how you approach it and just kind of demonstrate, you know, for us.
Okay, so well, we were just talking about playing economically,
yes,
even overpriced rhythms.
Yes.
So that comes with two things: playing shorter phrases.
Okay.
With just 3 or 4 notes.
Okay.
Or playing shorter phrases with the longer rhythmic value.
Right. Yep.
So if I take a fast song like Cherokee, the natural thing as a jazz player is going to be to do that kind of stuff, like So, but if you start by establishing a little bit of space. So this is a more economical way of doing it, where you're playing longer rhythmic values, and you don't have to play fast or loud all the time.
Right.
And then especially when I play Caribbean jazz, but not only, I always try to find Caribbean syncopation. And a lot of our phrases start on the end of 4 and rebound on the end of 1.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4. And in the motive that I just used, I added another element that you find in Caribbean phrasing is land strong on one note and maintaining.
Yeah.
So you have like the end of 4, the end of pa. Yeah. That's very Caribbean.
Yeah.
Syncopation, and then pow.
Yeah.
And then land there and stay there for a minute.
Yeah.
And let that breathe before you play the next phrase.
Right.
And that forces you to think motivically as well.
Right. Yeah.
So I try to think of this concept as the melodic rhythm concept.
Yeah.
Where I'm imagining a Caribbean hand drum,
yes,
but I'm just putting notes based on harmony.
Yeah.
On top of those rhythm. For instance, it's something that's a djembe player can.
Yeah.
Now I put some notes to it.
Yeah.
So all those are just rhythms.
Yeah.
But I'm putting notes to those, and a lot of my phrases also start with a bass note. And that's something that's common in all Afro-Caribbean styles of melodies. If you hear a lot of calypso,
yeah,
yeah. But then when you widen the intervals, is and all those are rhythms.
Yeah.
All those are so when you start combining all those things, plus another concept that I try to apply is when you hear a djembe or a percussion player in Afro-Caribbean tradition playing, sometimes they play a rubato.
Yes.
And it can go in a crazy way, but while the rhythm is going.
Yeah, kind of more loose. Yeah.
And it speeds up, stops, goes, and then slows down.
Yeah.
this phrase is based on this concept, and so it's valid already in a purely rubato context, but when you play that way,
yes,
the rhythmic context with even a groove,
the pulse, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's there is another feeling coming out of it.
Absolutely, and I think that sort of approach, every time I hear you do it, it sounds like magic. It shifts the energy in a very different way when you approach it like that, and it definitely calls attention.
Another aspect that I try to use in the middle of all this is the altissimo. So that you have those extreme ranges,
yeah,
and then you have those electric accelerations. They stop, slow down,
yeah,
and then start again,
yeah,
and turn and go into a different range. So basically, there is it feels like a almost like a zero gravity type of movement where you literally go wherever you want.
Yes, yes,
and that's the feeling that I'm trying to generate from that type of phrases.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could go into detail about
absolutely, yeah.
A lot of those things. Actually, I'm trying to find the time. I don't know when, but to write a manual of my melodic rhythm concept.
That would be amazing. I would be the first to buy a copy, and if you ever or when you release it, please let me know, because I'd like to also promote it on the podcast for anyone watching right now, because I'm very sure there's a lot of people that would like to dig into that, including myself, Jacques. I know I have one more question for you on this topic, because what you just demonstrated and shared is something that I'm trying to develop in my own playing. So what can you give some advice to anyone listening now about how you could begin to develop that concept?
So the first thing is to study or at least to try to analyze and hear syncopation.
Right.
And it will come from finding small syncopated motives.
Right.
If you start getting into something complicated from the start, first of all, you'll be disgusted pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Your time will be all over the place, and you'll be like, why am I wasting my time on this?
Right.
Whereas if you focus on small increments,
yeah,
and start to make it feel good, this is where you have your entry point.
Yes.
So a simple line. So in the last 7 or 8 seconds, then I started developing it a little more.
Yes.
So that your listeners can see what the next step could possibly be.
Yes. Yes.
There are many other steps after that, but if you just try to make this little phrase feels good.
Mm-hmm.
Like make it feel like light, joyous, and not laborious.
Yes.
and just floating along, but while grooving with the rhythm.
Yes.
And if you used to play like continuous 8 notes, now if you do that and then you throw in a podu podu, so So by introducing syncopation in the middle of your 8 notes,
you
just make it more interesting. And one last thing that I could recommend is don't look down on quad notes and dotted quad notes. It's simple, but it's very compelling.
Yes, absolutely.
When you start mastering your tone, your pitch, and all the scales. I was just using pentatonics right there, and it's not complicated, but yet it's so efficient. People are afraid of simplicity, and they're afraid of space. They're afraid of silence. But you have to remember that silence is the canvas that you draw your painting on.
I love that.
And in order to generate the feeling of magic that we were just talking about, you have to establish a dialogue with silence.
Okay.
Every phrase that you play has to be some type of question aimed at silence, and you have to wait for the response, meaning leave that space. For the next phrase to actually bounce off what the energy you're going to get from silence. Silence could be anything that you can think of that's compelling to you spiritually, or if you have no spiritual inclination, still, I'm sure when you're you're feeling that overwhelming wave of thrill from the music or from anything grandiose or beautiful. This is what I call the spirit. You can call it something different. Doesn't matter. We talk about the same feeling. And in order to generate that feeling, you need to establish that dialogue with silence.
Wow. Jacques, I mean, it's such a dream come true to be able to sit with you and have this conversation. And I could keep talking for hours about this stuff with you. And I know you probably have a lot more to share. But one of the restrictions with having in-demand and award-winning saxophonists on the podcast is that you're a busy guy. I know that you're also teaching at Berklee. Let's talk about that a little bit. How did you, I know you went to Berklee. How long have you been teaching at Berklee?
I've been teaching 5 years now.
Right.
And I'm exclusively directing ensembles, so I'm a full-time ensemble professor.
Okay.
At first, I decided not to engage in teaching the saxophone.
Right.
I did not want to think of myself as just teaching scales and that kind of stuff. I want to teach music. But as I am getting back into developing my saxophone technique and virtuosity and all that stuff, I'm thinking that maybe I will start teaching the saxophone, because I have a renewed love for just the instrument.
Yeah.
At this point, if I didn't write one more piece of music and I just played the saxophone for the rest of my life, I would still be just a greatly happy man.
That's amazing.
Fulfilled individual.
Yeah.
Because of just the joy derived from just playing my instrument.
That's amazing.
So I think I would be able to actually communicate this to a student at this point.
Yeah. Thanks for graciously, giving us so much giving me so much of your time and the audience watching. Before we wrap up this conversation, I want to play a bit of a quick rapid fire question game with you. So I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit here. So we're gonna start it off with just some word associations, and then I'm gonna end it with 3 questions. All right. So just quick phrases. What do you think of when you hear Coltrane, the name Coltrane?
Universe, infinite, the greatest. It's the alpha and omega, the beginning and the end.
What do you think of when you hear the term Creole Jazz?
It was the origin of jazz. The first jazz was Creole Jazz, and I think it's the future.
Amazing. Now, I want you to, we're going to end it off with 3, 2, 1. I want you to name 3 records that have been really influential for you, 2 saxophone players, and then leave the audience with 1 piece of advice.
Okay, so I would say ballads by John Coltrane, and then 2 saxophone players of Coltrane and Dexter Gordon.
Okay.
And
1 piece of advice. Yeah.
1 piece of advice, I would say, time is your friend if you practice every day. Time is not your friend if you practice sporadically, because you are constantly taking a step backward and then having to catch up again, just to start from where you left off. So if you're wasting a lot of time trying to just maintain, then you're just wasting time.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
But if you practice every day, you find the time, no matter how exhausted you are, to put in at least a solid hour.
Yeah.
Even when I'm jet lagging like crazy, I'm hungry. I don't know when I'm gonna get my next meal between this and the sound check and whatever. I make sure that I put in a solid hour.
Yeah.
And when I'm home, and I have a little time for myself, I try to hit the 4-hour mark. Yeah. Just push myself. And at this stage of my career, a lot of my colleagues, they only practice when they have a gig. So they constantly playing catch up, no matter how good they sound.
Right.
But if you keep practicing, first of all, time is going to be your ally, and then it will always be a quest, because you will always progress.
Right.
And things start going south when you're getting bored with your own self.
Yeah. Man, that advice is resonating so much with me right now. Thanks so much, Jack. How can anybody watching right now connect with you? Just kind of share your social media handles and your website with us.
I think Instagram, Twitter is probably Sonekala.
Okay.
My Instagram is Jacques JACQES _ Schwarz-Bart, Schwarz without a T.
Yeah.
SCHWARZBART. Schwarz without a T is more the Jewish side, which we haven't talked about. My father was Jewish. Is a Holocaust survivor. He was a Holocaust survivor.
Yes.
And the absence of T signals the non-German origin of the name.
Okay, so Jacques, I've been feeling this since we've been having this conversation. If time permits and if the opportunity avails itself, I would love to have you back for a part 2 sometime in the future. Maybe on a subsequent season to talk about a little bit more. I feel like if there's a lot more that we haven't really touched on as yet.
I'm afraid so.
Yes, and you're also a family man, so I love to talk about how jazz musicians.
So much to say about balancing music and family.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah. So hopefully we get another opportunity to chat a bit more. Jack, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. It's been a pleasure.
It's great connecting with you. I having been to Trini so many times, yes. I feel like I'm almost like a citizen honoris causa.
Absolutely.
Maybe I'll move to Trini on my old days.
Yeah.
It's close to my heart.
Yes, absolutely, man. Hopefully we get a chance to meet again sometime in the future. And I know your latest CD is Sonekala 2.
Yeah, Sonekala 2.
Sonekala 2, yeah.
I just 3 weeks ago recorded my Harlem Suite.
Yes, I saw that.
With Marcus Gilmore, Charlene Carrington,
yes,
Sullivan Fortner, Victor Gold, and Matt Penman.
Yes.
This one is more in the vein of modern American jazz, but of course everything that we just talked about, phrasing, thinking, of jazz improvisation through the spectrum of rhythmic melody, or melodic rhythm. And displacements, also a lot of displacements in there. Prepare to face some type of cognitive dissonance and consonance at the same time. With the rhythmic concept behind it, and this is going to be the next one.
Amazing. I can't wait. I just want to take an opportunity right now to shout out one of my subscribers on YouTube, Emily Steinwall, an amazing saxophone player here in Toronto. And I love this kind of taking the opportunity to shout you out, because you guys have been amazing with season 1 of the podcast. And thanks for the support. Jacques, my pleasure to have you on the podcast. And hopefully we'll have you back to for part 2. I hope this conversation, guys, has been inspirational. I know that I'm going to pick up my saxophone right now and go share it, because I'm so inspired. I hope that it helps you to keep taking ground in your personal, professional, and creative journeys. See you guys next time. Thanks, Jacques.
Take care.